The story starts with Olivia walking down the stairs holding a bloody knife. Her brother David shows up and realizes she murdered someone. Olivia says a man was supposed to be hers, but the girl had it coming. She wants to keep his bracelet, but David says it would tie her to the murders. David swings her arms like she's restarted. He stupidly takes her outside with bloody clothes before cleaning up any trace that could lead back to her. Outside, she sees a neighbor who is later questioned by the police concerning the victims' deaths. The homicide is on the news and Detective Amber learns of the incident. Detective Amber's still fine after all these years. Sometime later, Stephanie and Irvin Douglas, an entirely different family, are baffled when Gloria, their longtime nanny, informs them she'll be moving back with her mother. Worried about who will take care of their son Gerald, a developmentally challenged teen with aphasia, they scramble for Gloria's replacement. Why Gerald kinda cute though? Irvin takes Gerald to a cafe the following day, and Olivia, the waitress, treats them nicely. At first it seems like she's flirting with Gerald, but then she throws it back to the daddy too. Being nosy, she sees Irvin searching for a caregiver, and when she mentions she's interested in the position, he calls Stephanie to join him and interview her for the role. Later, the family learns Olivia had previously worked for a family with a Down syndrome daughter, and seeing that she's willing to move in to help, they hire her on the spot. But upon learning that she prefers to be paid in cash, Stephanie calls Irvine aside and tells him she doesn't trust the hoe. He convinces her to try Olivia out, and if she messes up after a few weeks, they can lay her off. And with that, Olivia's hired. While cleaning up the murderous mess, David tries to contact Olivia. He goes to his place to look for her and nearly loses it after finding the place empty. Worst of all, she took the bracelet. Hours later, Olivia moves into the Douglas household and immediately notices the CCTV camera. She goes to her room and tries to assure herself that she won't mess up like the last time. While doing so, she notes that Irvin is the one who needs her, not Stephanie. Meanwhile, Stephanie privately speaks to Irvine, expressing her doubts about Olivia, noting that she's too young and pretty, which might threaten their marriage. Olivia does give trifling aura. She suggests calling Gloria back, but Irvin convinces her to give Olivia a chance. Later, when they head downstairs, Olivia prepares a meal for them, and as she converses with them, she learns that Gerald was born with complications. Stephanie says Gerald is now a big, strong man.
Just like his daddy.
That's grounds for a beatdown, but Stephanie doesn't do anything. The next night, Amber meets with Derek and informs him about David, a man who cleans crime scenes after police reports. Derek at first doesn't see Amber's point in suspecting David as a conspirator. He believes she's reaching, but her theory makes some sense when she explains that David has a sister who works as a nanny, and in the murders he's helped clean up, neighbors reported seeing a nanny leaving. The case, however, seems complicated, so Amber asks Derek to talk to David while she handles the rest. He agrees and asks her why she's so hell-bent on the case, but she simply tells him she has her reasons. As Amber prepares to leave, she recalls playing with David, Olivia, and Tanya. When they were kids, Olivia got mad and grabbed a stick after being made fun of, but David stopped her and they played hide-and-seek afterward. Currently, Olivia does her caregiving duties very well, taking care of Gerald and getting cozy with Irvine. At one point, she notices a hidden camera in Gerald's room and she winks at it. Meanwhile, Stephanie watches her from her laptop at work and calls Sydney, her colleague, asking her to look into Olivia, who comes from the same town as her. Although the name doesn't ring any bells, the face does, so Sydney informs her of a look-alike who was once taken in for questioning for murder. She plans to dig deeper, but then gets busy with work. Back at home, Olivia disconnects the Wi-Fi and assures herself that she's doing the right thing, believing Stephanie has no right to monitor what she's doing with Gerald. Later, Gloria shows up unannounced and sees Olivia. She introduces herself and tells Olivia she plans to stay, explaining that Stephanie said she could come over and that she's finally worked things out with her mom, so she's back at her job. Olivia, however, doesn't take it well and accuses her of trying to take her family from her. Weirded out, Gloria tries to call Stephanie, but Olivia bludgeons her to death right in front of Gerald. Death by butt plug is diabolical. She heads back upstairs to change her clothes and assures herself that she did the right thing. Suddenly, her head starts ringing, so she calls David to help her clean the mess. He shows up moments later and scolds Olivia for causing more trouble. Still, he offers to help her, but after seeing that she doesn't want to come home with him, he warns her that this will be the last time he covers for her. Meanwhile, Gerald is extremely terrified. Stephanie gets home later that night and notices Gerald's strange expression, but before she can question him further to get the truth out of him, Olivia walks into view and shows Stephanie the house keys. claiming Gloria dropped them before leaving. Confused, Stephanie tries to call Gloria, noting it was strange that she hadn't reached out before leaving. The call doesn't go through, so she heads to her room. Immediately after, Olivia takes Gerald to his room and threatens to eliminate Stephanie if he doesn't cooperate. Quickly, he complies and she lays him on his bed. Later, Irvin comes home and sees Olivia trying to undress, but he quickly leaves for his room. David, on the other hand, is questioned by Detective Derek Jones, and after the interrogation, he meets with Amber the following day and tells her that her story doesn't add up. Amber pleads for 24 hours to give him proof, and he accepts. Amber then recalls the hide-and-seek game, remembering how she looked for Tanya, only to find her corpse half buried with leaves. That night, Sydney shows up to help Stephanie with her work. She informs her that she couldn't find any dirt on Olivia, unaware that Olivia is secretly listening. Olivia later sneaks into Sydney's car and hides there. After finishing work, Sydney steps into her vehicle to drive home, but Olivia pulls out a knife and threatens her to drive. Sydney immediately complies, but after they reach a remote spot, she begs Olivia to spare her. Olivia strangles her to death. The news of Sydney's death later hits the Douglas household, and while Stephanie mourns about having to grab her own coffee now, Irvin tells Olivia they'll have to rely on her more. In her room, Olivia wrestles with the voice in her head. Meanwhile, at the station, Amber learns of Sydney's death, and coincidentally, Sydney was the neighbor who had reported seeing a nanny leave the last deceased family's home. Amber yells at Detective Jones to start doing his job. One evening after work, Stephanie arrives home and sees Olivia dressed provocatively in her house. She confronts Irvine, asking him to correct Olivia. At first, Irvine dismisses her as insecure, but he finally agrees. The next morning, he sees Olivia dressed like a streetwalker again, so he corrects her and notices her mood darken. At work, Stephanie keeps digging for dirt on Olivia, but comes up empty, so she refocuses on her job. Later that day, she watches Olivia take Gerald out for some air. Immediately, Stephanie grabs one of her cameras and hides it in Olivia's room. A few hours later, she watches Olivia talking to herself in front of a mirror until Irvin enters the room looking to bury his eggplant in her garden. Amber spies on Big Back David to see what he's been up to. But while she's working the case, Jones shows up at her place and tells her she's off the case. She brings up Tanya's bracelet, explaining it was definitely David's sister who left it at a crime scene. But since there's not enough proof, Jones insists she step away, and she agrees to leave in the morning. Back at the Douglas home, Olivia sees Irvine stressed out, so she offers to drink with him to help him unwind. Moments later, she admits she knows about the nanny cam and actually likes that he watches her. Kinky, she kisses him, but he pushes the used-up hoe away and goes to bed. Right after he leaves, Olivia struggles with the voices in her head before going to her room. Later that night, Stephanie comes home and checks her hidden camera. She sees that Olivia has gone to bed, then checks in on Irvine. But as soon as she leaves, Olivia creeps into Irvine's bed. Because of the living jump scare, Irvine gets out of bed and realizes it was just a nightmare, so he goes back to sleep. The next day, Amber interrogates David regarding Olivia, but the wrinkly betch denies seeing her for years. Meanwhile, Stephanie confronts Irvine about drinking with Olivia and kissing her. He defends himself, but Stephanie argues back, telling him she wants Olivia out of the house. While they argue, Olivia overhears them and grabs a knife, but she puts it back after Irvin convinces Stephanie that Olivia can stay a few more days. What the helly? I would have kicked that schizoid fentanyl hoe out. After Gerald's parents leave, David phones Olivia, warning her that Amber's on her tail, but the psychopath tells him she's getting married to Irvine. Unable to take her behavior, he tells her again that he's leaving her, but to his shock, he learns she was the one responsible for Tanya's death. Right after the call, Olivia tells Gerald that she plans to get rid of Stephanie so she can be his new mommy. She shows him the same object she used on Gloria and tells him it's what she'll use on his mother. She goes crazy and Gerald gets real scared. Stephanie calls Irvine to apologize for her earlier actions. Girl, stand up. Apologize for what? She then announces that she'll be working more from home, determined to bring their family back to how it used to be. As she informs him that she'll pay Olivia off, Irvin tells her he'll be coming home late that night. Back at home, Olivia takes Gerald outside. Amber watches them but doesn't see the red bracelet until Olivia slips it onto Gerald's wrist. Later that night, Stephanie comes home and terminates Olivia's contract. Bewildered, Olivia tells her that Irvin loves her and would never agree to such a thing. Annoyed, Stephanie tells her to pack her bags, but Olivia grabs the owl decor and strikes Stephanie on the head. Death by owl decor is crazy. Amber, who had been patrolling, enters the house and threatens Olivia with a gun, telling her she's under arrest. Unfortunately, David, who's got the face of a radio host, shows up and knocks Amber out. He then tries to convince Olivia to go with him, but Olivia says she's waiting on Irvine. David eventually convinces her crazy Oz that Irvine will find her, so she leaves with him. Irvine arrives later, and after confirming Gerald is safe, he realizes that Stephanie is dead, so he calls 911. The police arrive and arrest Amber for murdering Stephanie. Despite all her pleas, the cops don't listen. That's when she realizes Derek and the captain know the truth, but are covering it up. What in the corrupt cop is going on? Derek then enters the house and tries to console Irvine. He gives him his business card, then shakes Gerald's hand. In doing so, he takes the bracelet, then calls his boss to inform him that the case is closed. Meanwhile, Gerald mumbles Olivia to Irvine, giving him second thoughts about everything. Back then, after David checked Tanya's corpse, Derek had shown up at the park. He said he would take care of everything. Currently, David tells Olivia he'll be taking her to Arizona, and he drives off into the night. 6 months later, Olivia meets with a new couple who plan to hire her as a caregiver. This was bad. There was no viable explanation that they'd protect crazy Olivia for that long. Just let the girl go to a mental facility to get the proper care she needs. What did you guys think of this one?
If you like this video, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. We got lots more of foolishness on this channel that'll have you hollering. And if you like to watch more, just click here or here.